Good morning, welcome to Furry and Spoilt. Today I'm going to talk to you about why dogs need walking. I'm going to talk to you about the benefits of dog walking, how long to walk a dog for and how often to walk a dog for. Now I get contacted a lot about different dog problems, and one of them is a lot of dog behaviour problems. And one of the questions I always ask first is about walking. And so often dogs are having behavioural problems because they're not being walked. Walking a dog will sort out so many problems. Let me tell you what it will sort out. One of the things that walks get rid of is energy. And so often behavioural problems are caused because a dog just has too much energy. Aggressive issues, chewing the house, barking too much, just generally just too much energy in the house. Causes so many behavioural problems. If you walk your dog, you will drain your dog of that energy. But something that is important to remember is, yeah, you will drain your dog of energy, but if you just walk your dog and you don't do any other training with your dog, all you're going to do is end up with a dog that gets fitter and fitter and fitter, and you'll have to walk them further and further and further to get them to be drained of energy. I've done a video about this. If you go to walking, go to playlist and then go to dog walking, it's in there, and it talks about how you need to do some training with your dog as well, because you don't just physically want to drain the body, you also want to drain the brain, and so you do need to do some training as well. So don't just think, well, I walk my dog and the behaviour isn't, he's going to, trust me, if you're not walking your dog and you start walking your dog, his behaviour is going to improve so much. But please be aware that you do also need to use their brain. Some dogs more than others, otherwise you are still going to end up with a dog that isn't completely nice and as calm as you can get them. And at the end of the day, the aim of the game is to get your dog as nice and calm as you can. If you can get them just that bit calmer by just doing a few basic training things, teach them to sit, teach them to do this, teach them to do that. It's all, go to training your dog, it's all in there, teaching you how to do it. And then that just means that your dog will be as calm as they can possibly be. Now, the other thing that it does is it gets rid of any anxiety. So if you've got a rescue dog or any dog that shows anxiety, walking definitely gets rid of anxiety, as it does with humans as well. If you're ever worried about anything, if it's bothering you, if you go for a walk with your dog, it's amazing how much calmer you will feel. And I've seen it with my own rescue. There he is. Where is he? Over here. Here he comes. My rescue from Korea, he understandably gets anxious, and walking him definitely reduces that anxiety. The other things, obviously, it allows your dogs to go to the toilet, because you do need your dog to go to the toilet. If your dog for any reason is forced to hold urine in him and isn't able to go to the toilet, that can cause, apart from massive discomfort and accidents in the house, it can cause infections in the bladder. So it's really important. It also if your dog has a regular routine where they go for a walk at a regular time and they go to toilet at a regular time, it just keeps everything flowing a lot better. That is the other thing, is that I think it's really important. I've talked about this in videos about routine. I think dogs do so much better if you are to keep them to a set routine so they know what's happening. I just think dogs are so much better behaved. I see it all the time. Dogs are so much better behaved if they have a routine. And so doing your walk at the same time every day is very important. Now, the other thing that it does, and this is a bit of a new one to me, so we've got Humps here, and this is very recently, within the last year, and so I've had to start learning about arthritis. And I've had dogs for, I don't know, 20 years or whatever, and I've never had a dog with arthritis, but he came to us absolutely riddled with it, and so I had to start doing research and start learning. And one of the things that I learned was that there is a fluid, let me just pronounce this right, because I've been, synovial. It's a fluid, and it is goes when you move your body. So when you walk your dog, it pumps up the cartilage. So when a dog has arthritis, the problem is that the cartilage between the bones has gone, and so you've got bones clanging next to each other, and there's no sponginess from the cartilage to soften that happening. But when you walk your dog, this fluid goes into them, it pumps up the cartilage and makes it easier for them to be able to walk. And I know with Humps, I've definitely seen it. Sometimes when we start our walk, he's a little bit stiff, and then you give him just very quickly into it, and look, you can see him now bouncing along. 7 months ago, he could hardly walk. Those back legs were all shaky and could hardly hold him up. Now he's bouncing along. And I've seen it on walks. I've seen people with old, really, really old dogs they're walking along and it's a little bit uncomfortable to watch because the dog's really sort of struggling. And then you see them a little bit later on their walk and the dog's bouncing along. It's because the fluid got going into their joints. And I think it's very tempting when you've got a dog that's riddled with arthritis to think, oh, they're in so much pain and they're all stiff. How about we just don't walk them? And I can see the reasoning with that. But honestly, you don't. You need to get them out, get them walked, and then the fluid will get into their system. One of the other things that walking your dog does is shortens their nails if you walk them on concrete. So what I do with my dogs is, so we groom all our own dogs, and so with Harry here and Albert over there, we're able to just do the grooming ourselves, and so we just clip their nails and everything's all fine. But with Humps over here, because of his past, he really isn't very happy about having his nails clipped. But that's working out just fine because I do my walks. We do some of our walks on grass like we are today, and we do some of our walks on concrete, and I'm finding that doing the pavement and the concrete walks is keeping his claws nice and short. I haven't ever had to clip them, and they're really nice and short. So if you have a dog where he doesn't want his nails clipped, taking them out and at least getting at least half of your walks on pavements really helps with that. Right, now as you can see here, all of my dogs, Humps here and my two dogs over there, are all really sniffing. A dog sniffing, you know, I was talking about earlier about how important it is to use their brain. If you let your dog sniff lots on their walk, then they are using their brain, because so the walk isn't just an exercise, but it's also like I said, like a training using their brain. When a dog sniffs, they're not just sniffing. Well, they are, but I mean what they're actually getting is, it's incredible what they can read. So if another dog has already piddled where they've gone, they can tell, if they know the dog and it's a piddle that they smell regularly on their walks, they know which dog it is. They also know how old that dog is, they know what size that dog is, and they know whether or not the dog's on heat. And if you see sometimes with dogs, they will try and get their leg up as high as they can to piddle as high as they can. And that is because they want other dogs to think they're bigger than they are. So the height of the piddle also tells dogs how big the dog is. Humps here is just watching some horses. See, it's all stimulation. It's all really good for him. Sniffing, I don't ever stop my dogs from sniffing. As much as they want to sniff, they can. So today that we're in an area where they're all off the lead, so it's all fine. If we're doing a walk where they're all on the leads and they're not off the lead, I never stop them sniffing. If they want to sniff something, I let them do it. I never stop them sniffing, and I don't ever have it where we're in a rush, because they have their allocated time. That I walk my dogs for an hour every morning, and if they want to spend that whole walk sniffing and not getting very far at all, that's fine. That's completely up to them. But I never stop my dog sniffing. You're really missing a trick if you don't let your dog sniff on a walk, because it's another way for him to be using up his brain. It's such a stimulating thing for him to do. You're really missing a trick if you're not letting your dog sniff. I hate it when I see people walking along and they're dragging their dog along, and the person's clearly in a rush. They're dragging their dog along. They won't let their dog stop. I hate it, because that isn't really letting a dog. That isn't what a dog walk is about. A dog walk is not just about walking your dog and the exercise. It's about so much more than that. Right, so how long should you walk your dog for, and how often? This is really dependent on breed and age. So if you've got a dog, say like a Dachshund, a sausage dog with tiny little legs, the recommendation is there that you don't walk them for more than 20 minutes, because that's all their little legs can take. Obviously, if you've got a German Shepherd, then you need to walk them much longer. So I have my dogs out for an hour every morning, but my dogs are all quite small. They're also getting on a bit. So even though we're out for an hour every morning, you can tell the pace they go. It's very slow. And when we're out, it isn't all just about walking. Sometimes they're not here so much because we're in a field and there's not a lot to see. But sometimes I walk my dogs around town and we go to different places, and we'll spend some time just stopping and just watching the world go by. So even though they're out for an hour, it's not an hour of actual walking. That would be too much for them. They're too old for that. So you just let them explore different places, like in this barn and things like that. But I think it's really important to get your dogs out for at least 45 minutes in the morning, and but to mix that up. So it doesn't have, if your dog is older, then it doesn't have to all be walking. It can be just sitting and watching the world go by. If your dog's really, really old and walking is a bit of a struggle for him, once you've walked him a little bit so you've got his fluids going, it's perfectly acceptable. Harry, what are you doing? It's perfectly acceptable to just sit and watch the world go by. The other thing to think about is that I read this thing once, I thought it was so interesting, and it was saying about if you walk your dog exactly the same walk every day, that is like you reading the same newspaper every day. So it's really important, I think, that because you want your dog to be interested in the walk, or else the whole process of it isn't going to work. So during the week, I mean, we do get a bit samey during the week, Monday to Friday, because, you know, we've got a schedule and we've got work and whatnot. So we do get a bit samey during the week. So I maybe have 2 or 3 walks that we change around and we do during the week. But then at the weekends, I have my dogs all over the place. We are honestly all over the place. We have just finding different walks and different places to go, and we're just all over the place with them at the weekend. But what is really important is, supposing you do a 45-minute walk every morning with your dog during the week, you can't then expect your dog to do a 3-hour hike at the weekend, because he's just not going to be up to it, because that isn't the fitness level that he's used to. And I do see a lot of people doing this, and it causes a lot of issues with overtiredness and just general stiff joints and stuff like that. So just be aware that, you know, you're asking a lot from your dog if you're expecting him to do a really long hike or just a long walk at the weekend, and then you're only giving him a diddly little walk during the week. So just be aware of not changing that around too much. Something you do need to think about is weather conditions. So in the UK here now, generally our weather is pretty consistent, it's pretty fine, it's pretty okay just to walk them. But we had a heat wave, we hit 40 degrees, it was absolutely ridiculous this summer. And so there's no way you could just do normal walking with them. So we got up extra early. So I normally walk my dogs at 7 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the morning. But during that really hot spell, I was up an hour earlier to get them out. And it was a very slow walk. And I did the whole route in shade. And it was a lot of sitting under trees and going to places where they could watch the world go by. And we don't have, I think once this last winter, it got so cold. There was one day when I didn't walk them because we went out. It was just so cold and I didn't think it was fair, and so I took them back. We went for a drive in the car instead. But obviously wherever you live, and I know that you people are all over the world, you are going to have completely different weather conditions to me, and you'll know what to do. Obviously do not walk your dog in the summer in the heat. Even if your dog doesn't drop dead on you when you're walking, doesn't mean your dog isn't suffering. Just please remember that. Something to bear in mind is, and I've lived this firsthand recently, when we got Humps here, just last year, he was so fat it was scary to walk him, and so as a result we were literally just doing a few steps, sitting a few steps. It was scary to watch, and the health in the very short space of time that I had him that fat, very quickly got that weight off him. But I couldn't believe what an effect it put his breathing. He wasn't able to walk. It really, really aggravated his arthritis in his back legs. Even now, he still does have weight to lose, but we are making such great progress. The weight loss, it did come off quite quick, but at the same time, it was steady, and now it's a steady and slow thing. But I saw firsthand the health issues that being fat was causing him, and how uncomfortable he was. Please don't let your dog get fat. I know you think, you're loving him and you're giving him all the treats, and please don't do it. Honestly, please don't do it, because your dog is just suffering. Get your dog out, get them walked, get them fit and active. Don't let your dog suffer from being fat. Right, when you are walking your dog, some of the things that you are responsible for. So you are responsible for picking up when they go to toilet. In the UK, it's a legal requirement. I'm not sure about the rest of the world. Actually, can you let me know, is it a legal requirement in your country to pick up dog poo? I think that's quite an interesting subject. So you have to make sure you've got your poo bags on you and that you pick up after them. If you've got them off the lead like I have here, I need to make sure that I'm watching them all. So I've got 3 dogs, but my husband is here as well, so he's helping me out. But you need to keep an eye on your dogs. You need to make sure that you're picking up after them. And there is no excuse at all in my mind if you're walking along a pavement for leaving a poo in the middle of a pavement where people walk. No excuse for it. It's your responsibility. You've got to pick up after that. after your dog. And I do not understand why people pick up dog poo and then hang the bag of dog poo in the hedge. What's the point of that? If you picked it up, do the whole job. So apart from the fact it's a legal requirement, I think the penalty is £200 if you get caught. And our council here are strict on it, very, very strict on it. And that's a very good thing. Now, the other thing that you've got to be responsible for is that your dogs will come back when called. Don't even get me started on this. I did a massive video on this about dogs that just come running up to you off the lead, and how the owner had the various owners have had no chance of getting your dog back. So I've done a video in training dogs about how to teach your dog to come back. And I've also done a video in the walking dogs playlist about, do you have to have the dog off the lead? And again, you know, I speak to so many dog owners. One of the things that keeps coming up is that, oh, but you have to let your dog off the lead. That's what you have to do. And it absolutely is not. Most of my dog walks are not off the lead. You absolutely do not have to walk your dog off the lead. The dog will do just fine with a walk on the lead. If your dog does not come back to you when called, then you shouldn't be letting your dog off the lead. Go and watch that video about it, because there were just so many issues if you don't let your dog off the lead. And also the legal requirement. There were so many laws. You cannot just have your dogs running around everywhere. And there's also laws like, I don't think people realise this, but I've had German Shepherds, so I've had to be, and big German Shepherds at that, big police German Shepherds. So I've had to be very aware of stuff like, even though my dogs were never aggressive, if they went running up to somebody and somebody saw them or thought they were intimidating or aggressive, then you can get into big trouble for that. And so, you know, you've really got to make sure that you're responsible, that your dog will come back. If your dog doesn't come back when you call, go and watch the training playlist. There's a video in there about your dog coming back. It's also your responsibility to make sure that your dog's nice. And that can't always be achieved. Some dogs aren't going to be okay with other dogs, and that's just the way it is. So therefore, it's your responsibility to make sure that you keep that dog on the lead. And just generally that, you know, if you, like Humps here, because of his past, I know he has a problem with men who have jet black hair. They can have light brown hair, dark brown hair, that's fine. But if somebody has jet black hair, it reminds him of the people in Korea, and he will be aggressive. So I'm very aware of that. So I make sure that if there's well, we're only wandering around here off the lead because it's an enclosed field. We've paid for it, so it's an enclosed field, and there's nobody around, just me and my husband. But if we were walking out in the streets and I was to come across somebody who had jet black hair, I always make sure Humps is pulled in and that he doesn't get to say hello, because I know there's a problem. So you just got to be aware of stuff like that. Now, in the UK, I don't know if this is a worldwide thing or if it's just a UK thing. Again, I'd really, if you have this in your country, can you please put it into comments, because you can then be teaching the people that are in your country, because obviously I can't do that. So in the UK, we have this thing where there's different coloured harnesses that you can wear with, not you, your dog, with writing on it. And it says things like nervous dog, I think it says aggressive dog, rescue dog. If you have a yellow lead, it means do not let other dogs come up to my dog, stuff like that. I have to be honest with you, my whole life is dogs. And I don't know the leads and the harnesses. If I saw a dog in the distance with one of those leads, I wouldn't necessarily know what it meant. So I would imagine that most people don't. So I don't really know how effective they are. So that's something to bear in mind if you've got one of those leads. I don't really know how many people know about them. I'm not sure that there's been enough marketing around it. But it's a good, I mean, I suppose it's handy if you've got people coming up close to you and you've got a harness with nervous dog written on it. I suppose it's handy from that perspective. So that's it. That's all I've got to say on it. But walking your dog, do you need to walk your dog? Absolutely you do, every day. And not just the dog will benefit, but you will benefit, because you'll have a better behaved dog. So please, can you comment about the various different things that I ask questions about in your country, because it really helps other people who are watching this video and aren't in the UK like I am. You really will be helping other dogs in your country. So you know where I am. TikTok is Dog Tip of the Day. Instagram and Twitter are just general pictures of what my dogs are doing. So if you want to say anything, put them in comments, and please don't hesitate to ask me any questions you got. You know I respond to all my comments and do everything I can to help. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you and your dogs all have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.